Welcome in, everyone. This weekend, I've picked out 12 different games to target across the weekend soccer action in Europe on February 10th and 11th to include into 4 different parlays. Now, let's get into these games. There's 6 on Saturday and 6 on Sunday in the EPL, La Liga, Bundesliga, and Serie A. Starting on the first parlay, it's going to be in England. On Saturday, it's Liverpool and Burnley. There should be little explaining here. Liverpool lost in Arsenal last week, 3-1, but they still lead the table by 2 points over City. And that game was on the road. At home, they're 9-2-0. They've outscored their opponents 30-9. Burnley are 19th in the table. They're 2-7 on the road. And on their travels, they've been outscored 20-11. They have only 2 wins across all competitions in their last 18 games. And those wins were against lower level teams like Sheffield and Fulham. Currently, they're winless in 6. They've allowed multiple goals in 4 of those 6 games. For Liverpool, they won in Burnley on Boxing Day 2-0. Liverpool had 69% of the possession, 1.75 to 0.72 XG, 19-9 shots, and 10-0 in the shots on target. Now Liverpool will play them at home, where they haven't lost since February 2023 in the Champions League and October 29th in the EPL. In all competitions at home, being 18 games, Liverpool have scored multiple goals in 16 of those games. This should be an easy Liverpool win. You certainly could go maybe Liverpool to win by 2 or 3 in a single bet for this parlay. We're just going to ask Liverpool to win. Next in the parlay will be Luton and Sheffield. These are teams right near each other in the table, with Luton being 17th and Sheffield 20th. But Luton's in way better form right now, and they have 10 more points. They have 20 compared to Sheffield's 10. After drawing Newcastle 4-4 last week, Luton is now undefeated in 6 games, and they have just 1 loss in 9 games across all competitions. Now, 3 of those games came in the FA Cup, but it's not like Sheffield is a high-end opponent either. Luton has scored 4 goals in back-to-back games and 12 goals across their last 4. At home in 13 games in all competitions, Luton has scored in 11. Sheffield, they look set for relegation. They have just 3 wins in all competitions in 26 games this season, and only 1 came on the road, and that was against Gillingham in the FA Cup. Their last 3 games were a 5-0 loss to Villa last week, a 3-2 loss prior, and a 5-2 loss before that. It was a high-scoring affair in the last meeting between these teams, with Luton winning on the road 3-2 on Boxing Day. Now, last year in the championship, Luton won 1-0, and the teams drew 1-1. Certainly, this looks like it should be a Luton win, but if you want to be safe in this parlay, just ask Luton to get 1 goal. And finally, we'll go to Tottenham and Brighton. It was 4-2 Brighton at home when these teams played last on December 28th. Now, that's only 2 losses for Tottenham in their past 10 games in all competitions. Tottenham, they always score. They've done so in 25 of 26 games across all competitions this season, only failing versus Man City in the FA Cup. And they are actually just 1 game shy of tying the EPL record for goals in 36 straight league games. And they could welcome Son back from the Asian Cup and Bissouma back from the AFCON this weekend as well. They have 2 clean sheets in their past 10, but those came against the teams like Forest and Burnley in their last 4 games. Scores have been a 2-2 draw with Everton last week, 3-2 win over Brentford, 1-0 loss to City, a 2-2 draw with Man U. So they've been scoring and conceding to a variety of teams in their recent games, which has basically been the case all season long. Brighton's scoring has been hit or miss a bit lately. They have been shut out 3 times in 6 games, but they also have games where they've scored 4, 5, and 4 goals in their past 7, including a 4-1 win last week versus Palace. If we look at goals per match, Tottenham games average the 2nd highest at 3.65. Brighton's average the 4th highest, 3.48. Both teams to score bets. Brighton have seen the most at 83%. Tottenham the second most at 78%. I think we see both teams to score in this game. So this parlay will be Tottenham, Brighton, both teams to score, Luton to score, Liverpool to win, coming in at minus 110 odds. Parlay number 2, going to Germany in the Bundesliga, still on Saturday. It's one of the biggest games in Europe this weekend. It's Leverkusen and Bayern Munich. It's first versus second. Leverkusen, they're still the only European team undefeated this season in the top 5 leagues in all of their competitions, that being 31 games. They scored in all but 1 of those games. Their last 2 games were a 3-2 win and 2-0 win. Bayern also always score goals. In fact, they had the longest active Bundesliga scoring streak at 43 games going just a few games back, until they lost 1-0 to Werder Bremen just recently. Now, since that time, though, they've rebounded with wins of 1-0, 3-2, and 3-1. When the teams last met, it was 2-2 in Munich in September. Leverkusen won 2-1 at home last year, and Bayern won 4-0 at home as well last year. If you go back to 2017, Leverkusen have not failed to score at home versus Bayern in 8 games. This should be a both team to score, probably a both team to score an over 2.5, maybe even an over 3.5 for the sake of this parlay, just both teams to score. Yes, usually it's, wondering if a team against Bayern will get the goal. It seems unlikely that Leverkusen won't score. Bayern's always scoring. Let's go both teams to score. And finally, Werder Bremen and Heidenheim. Werder are sitting mid-table in 9th, but one of the hottest teams in Germany right now. They've won 3 straight. They're 4-3-0 in their last 7. They've scored in all 7 of those games. In their last 16 home games, going back to last year, they've scored in 14 in the Bundesliga. But then Heidenheim are right there too. They're 10th. They're just 2 points back of Werder. They're undefeated in 7 at 3-4-0. But they've drawn each of their last 4 games. And those games have been low scoring at 0-0, 1-1, 1-1, and 1-1. In their 10 road Bundesliga games, they have conceded, though, a goal in 9 of 10. This was a shootout when these teams met earlier in September, with Heidenheim winning 4-2, playing at home. Now we switch to Bremen. Should probably be a Bremen win, but it could be a draw as well, given how well Heidenheim's been playing. I certainly do think Werder gets on the score sheet, so we'll go Werder to score. And the third leg of this parlay will be Gladbach and Darmstadt. This looks like a Gladbach win. They are heavily favored at home at around minus 175 odds. They are 13th. Darmstadt are last in the league at 18th. But these teams drew 3-3 in the reverse fixture in September, although Darmstadt took the 3-0 lead, but Gladbach fought back to get the draw. Darmstadt won 2-0 in the Pokal in 2022. The teams drew 2-2 and 0-0 in 2017, if you want to look back at a few other recent results in the past number of years. Gladbach only have 1 win in 7, though, and 0 in 3, and the 41 goals they conceded is the second worst in the league, behind just this weekend's opponents, Darmstadt, who have given up 49. So this is a very hard team to trust. Even though they're scoring goals, they concede a ton of goals. Still, though, they've scored in 17 of 20 and 14 of their last 15 in the Bundesliga. So this game could see goals coming from both sides. Neither is able to defend. Darmstadt give up the highest XGA in the league as well. Actually, these two teams allow the most shots on target in the league, with Gladbach giving up the most and Darmstadt the second most. Both teams to score in over 2.5 could be an option as a single bet. Darmstadt, though, they are winless in 13 at 0-4-9. They've been held off the score sheet in 3 of the past 4, so it maybe is hard to trust them to get anything out of this game. I would still lean to a Gladbach win or to score at very low odds. Darmstadt's 1, 2, and 6 away. They've been outscored 26-10 on their travels. Let's go over 1.5 goals in this parlay so we can get 2 goals from anyone in this game to complete it. So it'll be Leverkusen, Bayern, both teams to score, Bremen to score, Gladbach and Darmstadt over 1.5, coming in at plus 106 odds. Let's move in to Sunday, stick in the Bundesliga. It's Hoffenheim and Köln. Hoffenheim maybe 8th and Cologne 16th, but both teams are struggling right now. In the last 10 rounds, Hoffenheim have collected the 3rd fewest points, 8. Cologne the 4th fewest with 10. Hoffenheim look like the obvious choice, but they're just 2, 3, and 4, and they have 1 win in 11 in the Bundesliga. The 39 goals they've allowed is the 3rd most in the league, so only better than those last 2 teams we just talked about from the last parlay. But they are always good for a goal or a both teams to score bet. For Hoffenheim, both teams to score is 18-2 this season, and it's 22-2 going back to last season. They've only failed to score a goal once in that time, and that was against Giants Bayern Munich. Cologne snapped a 6-game winless slide with a 2-1 win over Frankfurt last week. They're now 1, 2, and 1 in their last 4. They've scored goals in 3 of their last 4, but they've also been held off the score sheet in 4 of 7. Now this game, it was 3-1 Hoffenheim in September when they last played, but 3-1 Cologne and Hoffenheim last year, and 1-1 as well in those games. It's hard to trust either of these teams. Maybe a both teams to score or a Hoffenheim to score. They're both in terrible form, but Hoffenheim always score. That's all I'm going to ask for here. Hoffenheim to get a goal. Next up, Stuttgart and Mainz. Stuttgart are 3rd, Mainz are 17th. The big news this weekend for Stuttgart will be the possible return of leading scorer Serhou Guirassy, who should be coming back from AFCON and a short sickness last week. Stuttgart, though, they're coming off of big wins even without him in the lineup. They won 3-1 last week versus Freiburg on the road and 5-2 at home the game prior against Leipzig. They did lose midweek against Leverkusen. That's one of the top teams, though, in Europe right now. But it was a Pokal game as well, not in the league. They're taking a big step down now, playing Mainz, who are still winless on the road at 0-6-4. They also only have 1 win in all competitions across their last 18 games. And they also have a rest disadvantage as they played Wednesday in the Bundesliga while Stuttgart played in the Pokal on Tuesday. There's lots of tight games, though, when you look at Mainz's games. Even though they're not winning, they're not getting blown out. They are winless since November 4th, but they're 0-6-4 with 6 draws in that time. They've never scored more than 1 goal. They never allowed more than 1 goal. The under 2.5 is 10-0 and in those 10 games, and it's 11-0 if you go back to their last win. So lots of unders and tight games for Mainz. But then Stuttgart, they come into this. They're 8-1-1 at home. They've outscored their opponents 31-9. Stuttgart won 3-1 earlier this season and also 4-1 in the second to last meeting back in May. Let's go for a Stuttgart home win here. And to round up the parlay, we'll switch over to Spain. It's Barcelona and Granada. Barca are third with 50 points. Granada are 19th with 12 points. I'm sure this is an easy one to see where we're going here. Despite Barca drama and Xavi planning to step down at the end of the year, there's still a big gulf between these teams. At minus 450, Barcelona are heavy favorites, so you could go Barca maybe to win by 2 if you wanted some better odds there, maybe both teams to score. But for some reason, they do struggle against Granada. Barca are winless in 4, drawing in October 2-2. However, those 2 Granada goals came from Brian Zaragoza, who's now left the team and is with Bayern Munich. Prior to that, they had draws of 1-1, 1-1, and they lost 2-1 in the other recent La Liga games against Granada. And while they did win 5-3 in the Copa del Rey back in 2021, they needed extra time. So that means Barcelona is actually now winless in regulation over Granada in their last 5 games. So you could look at possibly both teams to score. Even though Barca are 9-0-3 at home, they've given up 16 goals in those 12 home games. And then Granada, though, they are 0-1-10 on the road, and they've been outscored 24-8. So they might not be able to take advantage of that leaky Barca back line. Barca has only 3 losses in their last 23 La Liga games, and those came to Villarreal, Girona, and Real Madrid. They've scored multiple goals in 5 of their last 6. Granada only have a home win over Cadiz in La Liga and a road win over a lower tier side like Rosa in the Copa del Rey. Those are their only 2 wins in their last 21 games across all competitions. So it's really hard to feel too confident about putting any money on Granada right now. There's lots of Barca injuries, but they should get 3 points here. And with this being the last game in the time-wise in the parlay, with the other 2 games being earlier, you could even possibly cash out once Barcelona gets up. Or if you were betting at a site like Bet365, if they're up by 2, you get the auto win. So let's round out this parlay with Barcelona in Sunday afternoon. So Barca win, Stuttgart win, and Hoffenheim to score comes in right around even money at minus 103. One more parlay to go. On Sunday, we'll touch on 3 leagues, EPL, La Liga, and Serie A. Starting in England, it's Aston Villa and Manchester United. Aston Villa are 4th with 46 points. They host Man U, who are 6th with 38 points. These teams last played on Boxing Day, with Man U winning 3-2. But Aston Villa led 2-0 at half until Garnacho scored a brace in the second, and Højlund completed the comeback late with a goal in the 82nd minute. Aston Villa had 10 shots, 4 shots on target. Man U had 13 shots and 7 shots on target. Man U couldn't follow that game up with another win as they lost to Forest in their next game. But they have won since that time 2-0, drawn 2-2, won 4-2, won 4-3, and won 3-0 in their next games. 3 of those being in the EPL, 2 in the FA Cup. Villa's had mixed form since that game themselves. They're 3-2-2 in all competitions. They have just 1 win in 5, and that was against Sheffield. They lost 3-1 at home versus Chelsea last week. At home, though, they've still scored in 30 straight in all competitions, but now have lost at home in back-to-back games by 3-1 scorelines. Both teams scoring over 2.5 has hit in 5 of 6 between these teams, with a total of 5 goals, 1, 6, 4, 4, and 4 goals across those games. This certainly looks like a game where there could be goals from both teams. Let's go both teams to score. Next up, in Spain, Sevilla and Atletico Madrid. Atletico aren't always a great team away from home where they are 4-2-5, but they did go to the Bernabeu last week and drew Real Madrid 1-1. They followed that up, though, with a 1-0 loss to Bilbao in the Copa del Rey this week. But that's just the 3rd time in the last 30 games across all competitions they failed to score a goal. 2 of those came against Bilbao and 1 against Barcelona. Those are much better teams than Sevilla. Sevilla finally got another La Liga win last week, 2-1 in Rayo, but that's just 2 La Liga wins across their last 17 games. They've also allowed a goal in 23 La Liga games. They have the 3rd worst XG, the 4th worst XGA. They've given up the 7th most shots on target as well. This should be an Atletico win if you want that as a single bet, but it has been close when these teams have played lately. It was 1-0 Atletico in the Copa del Rey and also 1-0 in La Liga this season in the 2 earlier meetings. Atleti haven't failed to score, though, against Sevilla in 6 straight, and they scored against Sevilla in 16 of the past 17. All I'm going to ask for here is an Atletico Madrid goal. And finally, the last bet in this weekend, it's Bologna and Lecce in Italy. These teams drew 1-1 in December, but last year Bologna won 3-2 and 2-0. In past years, Bologna also won 3-2 and 3-2 in recent years. with both of these teams being in the top flight. So Bologna's been undefeated against Lecce in recent years since they've both been in Serie A. After a run of games where Bologna had just one loss in 19 across all competitions, they did hit a rough patch, going winless in 5, 4 of those games being in Serie A, 1 in the Coppa Italia. They had a surprise 2-1 road loss to Cagliari recently, but they drew 2-2 in Milan and then won 4-2 at home to Sassuolo last week. So it looked like they could be coming out of that slide. Still at home at Stadio Renato Dalla Ara, they have been in great form at 8-2-1. They've scored 18 and allowed just 7. Going back to last season, they have just 1 loss in 20 home games across all competitions. They've scored in 9 straight and in 16 of those 20. Lecce got a win last week at home to Fiorentina, 3-2, but that's just their second win in 19 games, both at home, and they've had 0 clean sheets in those 19 games. They have 1 road win in 18, and that was against Monza last May. Certainly, you could, if you were looking for a straight bet, you could go Bologna to win, but for my parlay, I'm happy with just Bologna to score, because with Aston Villa and Man U both to score, Atleti to score, and Bologna to score, we get some nice plus money at plus 133 odds. So there you go. I touched on 12 different great games across 4 of the top leagues this weekend. But if you like any other games, be sure to drop those picks and thoughts into the comments. And if you found these tips and this video helpful, be sure to give the video a like and subscribe to the channel to get more soccer picks, including predictions for the Asian Cup and AFCON final games this weekend. Thanks and good luck.